Ready?
You're good to go.
Greetings. My name is Mabiri Jordan. Thank you for having me today. Justice is for everyone. I see visions, contemplating, you're the spirit, and oasis on Neptune, interplanetary flight. Ooh, I see visions, comets blazing, notes yearning, and oasis on Neptune, interplanetary flight. Ooh, the life of a galaxy expresses itself in so many ways. It evolves into itself as destiny proclaims. Cosmic energy pulses within each and every living thing. Life on so grand a scale, becoming itself in front of my eyes, and I see vision. Comes blazing, no mystery, interplanetary flight. Ooh, so come have a dream with me. There's magic among the stars. Open up your mind's eye to receive the light of the sky. While soaring for eternal sky, let the moonlight bathe your spirit, heal your heart. Ooh, I see vision, no journey into planetary. Ooh, and I see. I see. Ooh, I see vision. No ensuring that oasis on interplanetary flight. I see. The great galaxy expresses itself in so many different ways. Evolves to itself as destiny proclaimed. Destiny proclaimed. Survive on so grand a scale. Life on so grand a scale. Coming itself, right in front of my eyes. Right in front of my eyes. I see. I see.
Thank you so much. Yeah. Barry Jordan with our opening song. I'd like to open it up and welcome everyone to the One Human Race Solution Collective virtual roundtable, which is essentially a panel discussion on developing a 12-month plan of action to end racism, racial discrimination, xenophobia, and related intolerance globally. Today, we talk about acts of tyranny, whiteness, and its solutions. But before we get to that, let's go ahead and start off with some land acknowledgements. Here is where we acknowledge the land that we occupy that was once occupied by our native ancestors. I'll go ahead and start. I'm here in Jonesboro, Georgia. And our land that I'm on right now was once occupied by the Muskogee, I think I'm saying that correctly, as well as the Creek. We can go around and go ahead and do our acknowledgements. Go ahead. I'll start. What do you want to? Zero. You want to go next?
Yeah, I'm here in Maryland of the Piscataway and the Potawatomi tribes. Of course, so, you know, when I'm learning about tribes, I realize it's sometimes hard to keep track. There's so many that come and go, but those are the two main ones here in Maryland, and it also crosses into Virginia too.
Nice. Let's see, Sedona, would you like to go next?
Okay, I'm in Southern California. We have the largest number of indigenous folk here. So I'm just going to mention the Hawakachi, which is East Central California, the Cachula, which is Southern, and the Pit River Tribe, which is Northeast. The Achokoway and the Achowu are also in that area. In Northeastern California are the Asugawi people. But we have a huge, this is the largest settlement of Native people in the U.S. in Southern California.
Nice. To keep going, we're gonna go into honor and statement of appreciation. Here we identify individuals and organizations that made time and effort and resources for a better world, and or those who ensured our democracy continues given events that took place on Wednesday, January 6, 2021. I'll start. I believe I've said him before, but just kind of stays top of mind for me. I'm going to go ahead and acknowledge Bayard Rustin as an individual who I look up to for his strategy and his contribution to the civil rights movement. And an organization that I've actually been working closely with here in Atlanta is called the People's Uprising. They've been consistent with, taking to the streets and being an active voice for the community here as of late. So I'd like to acknowledge them. Zero, you want to go next?
Yeah, I'd like to acknowledge local activists really around here that I've grown with in the community, especially within my artistic venture. I've met a lot of different activists, but I just want to acknowledge a lot of the local activists who aren't well known, but they also provide resources. In this particular case, there's one called the DOPE Tribe, which is stands for Developing Organic People Everywhere, and they do a lot of aiding with frontline protesters and putting themselves at risk sometimes to just keep that movement going forward.
Nice.
I'd like to acknowledge James Baldwin. Poetry, his books have just reminded me that we're not new. Oh, I want one. My favorite quote is from James Baldwin. Now, of course, I got excited, but it's like you have to you can't solve every problem, but unless you deal with it, it ain't gonna get solved. I'll do better next time, but wow, I want one of those shirts. So that's really cool. You made my day. You made my day. And also, Black women who have just been at the front line of every movement and every contribution, our mamas, our aunts, our grandmothers. Sometimes we don't say their names, but all of us, brown, black, yellow, green, purple people, come from folk who have done their part in some way. They might not get the accolades, but unless a leader has folks with them on the side or her on the front, it won't happen. We all have our pride. So everybody who's been involved with, staying and standing, even if it's being quiet, standing, if it's being on the street, standing, it's cooking, pushing you to go to school. Those folks who don't get in the history books and the storybooks. Mm-hmm. That's who I'd like to honor.
Nice. With that, I think we should go around and do some introductions. I'll go ahead and get started. My name is John Kwashi. I go by John Q. I am founder of the Just Us Foundation, just recently becoming an Inc. Just Us Foundation is led by app development to essentially create organization and streamline information for any movement that's taking place. We are currently developing that, and is supported by Just Us Foundation, where we connect Black youth with tech opportunities and connecting HBCUs and schools to boot camps and essentially this pipeline into the tech industry so that we can effectively create change.
Can you speak up? I'm having a hard time hearing.
Zero, can you hear me or no?
I said if you a little louder.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Let me just make sure my levels are right. I was giving top line about Just Us, and its objective of stepping into tech industries and connecting the tech field with people, with youth of color, and allowing them opportunities into those fields. So we go back around. Zero, I'm gonna go to you next.
I'm a poetry-based artist by the name of Zero Conditions, and I deal with, some people call it urban politics, but my interest in the anti-racist platform has me here committed and just ready to go. I am based in Maryland, in the DMV, and I've performed in DC and Baltimore and different places, also at the Green Party Convention. And I've also ran as a candidate a couple years ago in the county council level.
Is our sister there, or did she? You have to ask her if she wants to do her self-introduction.
Hey, Wabiri. Not sure. I see her. I think she's muted, but hey, Wabiri,
Hello,
mind giving us
sorry,
a quick
I was
introduction?
muted.
Sorry.
So my name is Wabiri Jordan. I'm an artist based in Hartford, Connecticut, but I am from Los Angeles, California. And I'm very interested in producing justice and countering a system of white supremacy, anti-Blackness.
Nice.
I don't have a lot to say. I'm in the middle of 15,000 things. But I'm grateful to share whatever moment I can in and for that effort.
Awesome. Awesome. Selena, would you like to go next?
Oh, you're muted.
Sorry. Active Green Party member and committed to ending racism in our lifetime.
Awesome. From there, let me pull this back up. Sorry about that, guys. We're gonna go into our purpose. Selena, would you like to take that?
Okay, all righty. Our purpose in having these roundtables is we made a commitment from 12 months, from September 8th last year to September 8th this year, to end racism. And that's in line with the UN footsteps and moving forward on ending racism. They gave a conference in Durban, South Africa, 2001. Well as we've called an online petition against the doctrine of discovery, which we've been talking about, that happened in 1455, where the Pope and European monarchs signed a decree, a papal paper, that anywhere Europeans went around, they could rape, rob, steal under the auspices of discovering. Am I doing 7 as well?
Yes.
Okay, so that leads to the background. We, a fellow Green sister, Jessica Bronson out of Utah, co-chair, and myself, we held space for 1 hour last year from August 31st through August 8th. And in those discussions, we came up with that we can help celebrate the 20th anniversary by taking action, as I shared. 1 is these roundtables, 2 is the online petition, and 3, come up with a plan to end racism in our lifetime. Thank you.
Awesome. With that background, before we get into our discussion, we'd like to go into some house rules. We've, all who are involved right now have submitted just some rules of engagement, and I'll just kind of list those off for us to abide by. So first one is justice. We go into open-mindedness, truthfulness, accountability, and unity. Let me make sure I'm pulling this. So those are the house rules. Next, we can go into essentially what the format for this roundtable, what that's going to look like. Forgive me 1 second. Selena,
I can just take it. It's really 2 parts. This is part 2 of Wednesday, January 6, 2021. Tyranny, whiteness, and solutions. So we were gonna go over definitions for tyranny and whiteness. We were gonna show the video, but I don't think we could pull the video up. So I think John is just gonna read some generic definitions of those 2. And then after that, we're gonna address 5 questions between the 3 of us that I pulled off of reading newspapers, the Washington Post and a few other. because they've had some very poignant questions. So for part 2, we'll review part 1 by John reading the definitions of those 2 words, and then we'll go into questions.
Cool. So simplistically, tyranny, I have a few definitions here. Cruel and oppressive government or rule. A nation under cruel or oppressive government. Cruel, unreasonable, or arbitrary use of power or control. When looking up whiteness, typically the things that come up is white nationalists.
Okay.
So I kind of got a definition within that framework, and we can expand or bring that down as you all see fit. But in terms of white nationalists, one of a group of militant whites who expose white supremacy and advocate enforced racial segregation. And we can dissect that as needed.
Okay, since you were here, my brother Zero, would you like to add some of the points, just briefly though, because we're gonna do the 5 questions, all 3 of us. So do you remember some of the things, some of the points that were made about tyranny and then whiteness that you can share?
There's something that, without making it so, broad. I know last time I had a lot to say.
Not just you, but other people. Do you remember?
Well, I don't.
We was a round table.
I don't remember word for word, but I have a sentence to add here, which is
because the sister, she blew me away.
Mm-hmm.
Her definition was unreal. Joyce, I think that was her name.
Jules.
Oh, I'm very sorry.
I have something to add here. Tyranny. It murders the soul, destroys the earth for selfish gain, turns people into subjects while imprisoning the mind and forsaking any possibility of prosperity.
Okay. I'm gonna touch my notes.
But that's I don't get. That's just something that I was just looking at it. I guess something to add to it. But the notes from last time, I don't quite remember that.
Okay. What I remember her saying is that, well, I can't remember, but I'm gonna read what I wrote. Way to oppress, extreme social, financial, which came from you, power play, disconnected, control, violence, death, destruction, power destroys life, unfair. It just contradicts, and it has no leadership, and there's no results, positive results in tyranny for anybody, a state or individual. Unintended consequences. That's what I have on my notes. So what about whiteness, brother? Zero condition?
Oh, just add
points on whiteness. We ask you for 2.
2 points on whiteness?
Yeah, something about, you said something about tyranny, but what do you remember about whiteness?
Okay, so you're referring to what was already said or something new? Because I have, right now,
No, what the points that we talked about, because I wrote notes from the last time, but we were just trying to refresh because John wasn't here. Refresh his memory. That's all we're doing. So he can understand where we came from to get where we are today in part 2.
Right, yeah, I think John said archaic status quo. Jules said bleaching of the earth or something like that.
Bam!
Bleaching of the earth?
Oh my God.
Like that.
It was that. I mean, I have never forgotten her. You're going to have to look at that. That's why I wanted to show it because, all right, come on, brother. I'm sorry, but it was bad.
Mm-hmm.
Bleaching of the earth. I'm sorry. That's.
Isn't that powerful?
The deep concept. Yeah.
I mean, I stopped in my tracks when she said it. That's why these are so powerful. False superiority, Eurocentric, not logical, control of resources, all of that. But that bleaching of the earth, because people don't realize that
Mm,
whiteness has caused climate change.
mm,
It is climate change and the destruction of the earth are directly related to whiteness. I say hate of people, planet, and things is the only result whiteness brings.
mm.
It's responsible for just about everything wrong.
Mm.
Okay, so now we're gonna get to the questions, if that's okay.
Yeah.
Did anybody else want to say anything about tyranny and whiteness before we move to the questions?
I could add to whiteness, I would say colonial construct that dehumanizes all those who don't qualify to be white and erases the origin of identity and replaces it with the false sense of superiority.
On point, on point. So we have 5 questions. I'm gonna put the questions in the chat. Is that okay?
Sure.
Okay, here we go. Oh, there's chat. Can you see the first question, John?
Mm-hmm.
So John, you take the first question. Zero, you take the second. I do the third. John, you do the next one, like that. And we'll run them around.
Okay.
We're gonna spend 10 minutes on them. So 2 minutes each on these 5 questions.
Cool. So the Washington Post writes, "This is not un-American or alien to who we are. It is the fruit of everything we have ignored since Reconstruction was overthrown in South Carolina in 1876. We cannot assume that this failed pooch."
Pushpa. It's like a Jewish word.
Okay. Will be the end of the violent attempt to replace democracy once again with white power, and we cannot support them with our silence. Is this statement true? I think at the core, the statement recognizes a long lineage and history that lead up to events that we see, like January 6th. It certainly, it forces us to acknowledge how we are complicit, or people are complicit in those things. So I think for the most part, I think the statement is very true. And I mean, to say we cannot support them with our silence, the only thing that I respond to that is, what does that mean? So I think while I love the acknowledgement of just, oh my gosh, we've led up to this. We have a foundation that is built and contributed to what we saw swell. But I'm almost like sick of hearing we need to support. I would rather just see what the support is. That makes sense.
Say it. Say what that means to you.
Oh, I mean, breaking the silence means creating legislation that that supports and takes out anti-racist rhetoric, that dismantles anti-racist systems, whether it be prison to pipeline. Wait, what am I saying? I'm saying that incorrectly. But you know what I mean.
We got you.
School to prison pipeline, whether it be real estate redlining, whether all of these things that still plague us today. Like, that's what breaking the silence looks like to me. So,
my brother, Zero Condition, that question, if you can, is it a true statement? The question is that above, what he read, is this statement true? And what you agree with, what you don't agree with, what your issues is, and something that, touches you about it. You can read it again out loud if you like. I can't hear you.
this is not un-American or alien to who we are. It is the fruit of everything we have ignored since Reconstruction was overthrown in South Carolina in 1876. We cannot assume that this failed putsch will be the end of of the violent. Is that an actual word? will be the end of the violent attempt to replace democracy once again with white power, and we cannot support them with our silence. Is this statement true? We cannot support them with our silence. Silence is consent for the most part, I believe. If we are silent, then we are agreeing to something. Silence can also be violence, or at least working or being complicit in it. So definitely cannot be silent when there is injustices being occurred. But how we then, cause direct action is probably like a separate follow-up, but we definitely cannot be silent.
I thank you both. I just want to make 3 points. This is not un-American. I have to agree that their behavior is normal. Again, from these roundtables we're doing, and we've done them now, now I think this is our 11th or 12th one, we are all clear that the America that we call America is on stolen land. That's why we do land acknowledgments. So them behaving dismissive of democracy, even if it's a not perfect union, is what happens in domineering mindsets. Mm-hmm. And that relates, my second point is, this relates back to 1455. The doctrine of discovery is really dominance. So that mentality that it's ours, even though people's was already here, it is consistent with this false sense of importancy to European American DNA folk. So I agree, but my second point is, again, they use South Carolina in 1876. I disagree. This happened in 1455.
Yeah.
So those are my 3 points on it. So my brother, Condition, will you please read question 2 and then address it?
Yes. Who in America set the stage for the racist mob's attack on the Capitol on January 6, 2021?
Name them. We taking names and numbers.
Well, I haven't done that deep of an investigation, but based on what I can see, political leadership, who manipulate masses with the intent of destruction, or possibly because they got something to gain. Also, violent factions within those movements that have a vested interest in these kind of violent extremist acts. Such as I would say, like, even though the Proud Boys is probably like the most well known, I guess, to be involved in this. These violent factions, there may be many violent factions that don't have names, that they've always been around. That's just their recent name. Out of mockery.
I love that.
But I think, if we understand that this has always been an issue, then these factions have always been around. They're just reinventing themselves. And I would go to the degree of saying that when I look at this factions as just from a broad point of view, they've done a really good job to make fascism a more mainstream thing. I feel like they've been able to somehow sugarcoat the irrationality that they act on with some kind of mainstream concept, where it's like, no, we're just proud or something.
You're on point. You pointed it out. My brother John, do you want to read the question and then address it as well? Thank you so much, Zero.
Yeah,
on point.
Yeah, you kind of hit the nail on the head. Who in America set the stage for the racist mob's attack on Capitol on January 6, 2021? I think, if we allow the media to to guide us. There are certain characters that they like to point out, right? There's Trump, there's Rudy Giuliani, there's all of these like political clowns that
Love it.
that have the stage, but the truth of the matter is the rumblings, the beginning of that attack is a homegrown strategic thing that goes all the way up to politicians of their stature, but it's really like I mean, we've been seeing the onslaught of these factions throughout the past couple of years, you know. So like, I don't even know how to pinpoint it on one person. It's this group of people who have tied themselves to this idea of whiteness and superiority, that have found solace in each other because somehow their ideals match, and therefore they're gaslighting each other to believe that they are oppressed.
Look, can we clap for that part too?
That's right.
But I wanted to clap for a couple of things you said too, but I'm like, y'all hitting it good.
Yeah.
So who set the stage for the racist mob attacks on the Capitol? You've acknowledged them. John, can you do number 3, and 0, you do number 4?
Sure. So how come even with Trump's departure, the problem of white supremacy still exists in America? The reason is because Trump didn't invent white supremacy. He just lit flames. He did
Mainstreamed it. That's what my brother said.
He and it's crazy because, you know, I believe we give Trump a lot of credit for too much credit for invigorating this group of people, when the truth of the matter is all he really did was give them a spotlight. Their rhetoric, their ideas, their vileness has always been there, and they've been taking it out on us in so many different ways. Whether Trump was in office or not, they were gonna do these vile things regardless. It's just it was like the perfect storm with Trump.
Yes.
That's really all it was.
Critical mass with
it.
a gifter.
That's it.
Sorry to interfere. My brother, would you like to make some points? 0?
Right. Despite Trump's departure, white supremacy will still exist in America because it is not just based on some emotional factor. It is a system that is being practiced every day, and it has been built like this. So until we build this plan that we are talking about to disintegrate this, it's going to continue to persist.
Thank you both. How about you doing number 4, 0?
At a time when partisan animosity has reached a constant fevered shriek, when many Americans increasingly view one another as irredeemable alien, can liberals and conservatives still come together in a genuine, constructive way? It certainly is getting very, very tough to take a position on either side of the aisle especially because of what just happened, where everything's just coming to the light, the amount of hatred that people are dealing with within the political system. Can liberals and conservatives still come together in a genuine, constructive way? I'm looking for an answer here. I feel like there's no easy answer. Because I personally would question conservatives. Like, if I look at myself, like, because I feel like everyone has some sort of liberal and conservative point of view in any given subject. So I would question conservatives, like, what are you conserving? Because we should be conserving the earth. You know, if we're conserving the earth, then shouldn't we be conservatives? But we're not. What are you conserving? You know, or even when it comes to liberals, it's like, you know, what are we liberating? Because it just has to make sense. I mean, like, life itself, it's like a full circle. So it's like, you know, things are going to compensate. You know, she can't be one extreme and then have an emptiness and or a void. It's going to fill with something. So I think that us constantly identifying ourselves as one being red or blue, it kind of feels kind of like a mafia situation. It kind of feels just like a bunch of gangs, like we haven't grown up, you know. So, you know, can we still come together in a constructive way? I think if the love for a nation is greater than the love for self, I think we can.
Thank you so much. What about you, Brother JQ?
Yeah, so I would have to agree in some sense, because the optimistic part of me says yes, right? There's always the opportunity to come together. That's the optimism. My optimism is waning, but there's always that possibility. I think the only way that actually happens is if we revisit and reevaluate how we even like approach being liberal and conservative in the way that Zero is kind of mentioning, right? So it's like what are our common interests as humans? You know, like what if we can come to the table and really be human conscious and human and care for humans and care for the earth and figure out ways to make sure that like those are priorities, being liberal and conservative, it doesn't really matter, right? Because we're working for a common goal of goodness. And until we get to that conversation, I don't liberal versus conservative, it doesn't really matter. If that makes any sense.
Okay, now you know I forgot who read the last question, so I need some help here.
No problem. I got it. I'll run.
Okay, I'm like,
yeah.
I'm all involved in the conference. I'm like, oh
Yeah.
God, I didn't write their names down.
And this question actually, you know, I feel like it ties into the last question. So, Can Red and Blue America avoid divorce? I believe Red and Blue America needs to go through an amicable separation first. Maybe they need some time apart so they can come back together and figure it out. Like, I don't know. Marriage counseling. Like, what I'm really saying is, I think the priorities, I think being aligned with red or blue has conditioned people to this idea of like allegiance, right? And it's blind.
Okay, like, yeah, he talked about it.
It's blind allegiance. And if you're just, you know, supporting ideas and concepts because of this group you're having allegiance to, then we're defeating the purpose, because we're not actually moving in a like genuine positive way with hope that the outcome will really be beneficial to the human race.
Awesome.
You know? So I feel like maybe everyone needs to just like separate a little bit and come back and express what makes sense, as opposed to trying to, you know, work together.
Work it out.
Yeah, right. Fake work it out and then be divorced.
Fake work, I love that. Fake work it out. My brother, Zero.
Can Red and Blue America avoid divorce? No, I don't think so. I don't think you can avoid it. Because, you know, when it's the fact that we
what are the irreconcilable differences? Is that how you say it? That's how come people can get a divorce legally.
Right.
You cannot reconcile something.
Mm-hmm.
So what? You said no. So I'm asking you, give me 3 reasons why they're going to divorce. I'm the judge. What are the 3 reasons why you cannot get together again?
Well, I guess I can only speak from personal experience.
Okay. Okay.
So my failures have taught me what not to do, but I still haven't figured out what I'm supposed to do.
I understand.
But yeah, I say no because, you know, even in families, you look, most tribes, most families fall apart because of political differences to begin with. Even before you just emotions, you know, like we don't agree the way decisions are being made, so we separate. You know, this is just like a natural human condition, I would say. So So I think sometimes it's inevitable when we have gotten to the point where we just completely disagree with the process of you're making decision. If red and blue are their process of making decisions are very segregated in a way, I would say. Like they're just like in a completely different reality, and they're always trying to force or impose on each other, and it's always the case with someone feels that they're right, the other side feels like they're wrong. So I'm always right and you're always wrong. They're both feeling that way. So it's just going to end up in violence, such as where we ended up. So I would say no, because before it gets to an unhealthy situation, you have to go.
Okay, because we've gone over a little bit of time, I'd like to thank you both for your insightful. I've gained so much. The next minute, solutions. From these 5 questions, we've come up with a couple of solutions. So if you can highlight if there's 3 things to change, this is tyranny, whiteness, and solutions. So if you can give me one each, a solution for tyranny with what happened on Wednesday the 6th, and a solution for whiteness. If you want to think about it, or if you want to go forward, I'm open to both.
Yeah, I can. I got a couple of points.
You go.
Wow, look.
Yeah, one for each for now. One for each for now.
Okay, you go for it, brother.
just
small,
just small little points on the.
I wrote it down. I like him. I'm sitting back down.
Just to get it warmed
solving our problems.
let's get it warmed up. All right. So on the case of tyranny, I would say it's gonna sound simple, but it's very complex, which is practice patience and dealing with hatred. You have to practice patience in dealing with hatred, because hatred is such a destructive dynamic, and it exists in every human being. Sometimes people who never thought that they could ever feel hatred engage in it when they're put in a volatile situation. So anything that involves hatred involves destruction and murder. So, and we've all, at one point, everyone will experience some level of hatred. I think the in the case of tyranny is so destructive that one could almost say that it's like you have hatred towards yourself, because there's no way that you can keep me in a hole without you being yourself in the hole with me. And on the case of whiteness, I have this to say: re-educate the understanding of race and teach emotional maturity through positive examples. And that is that we all have a lot of great advices, and when it comes to races, it can be very sensitive, but I think that the best way to teach is through examples. So, it's starting with our kids. They need to see us congregating and socializing and doing positive things and dealing with our emotions. So dealing with the emotional maturity of growing up, and because a lot of the racism really starts with how they're brought up to begin with. Well, and especially when it comes to race dynamics, it's like, all around the world, they got different understandings of race, right? If you go to the South, it's unique, it's different than in the North, and so I would say, like, basically in us teaching our kids, meaning dealing with a lot of generational trauma or a legacy of issues, that we need to really develop the courage to confront them, and then teach our kids to have a better path forward.
Zero, you.
Thank you so much. What about you, brother JQ?
Zero, you give me hope. You do, because there's a lot of optimism and just goodness in your answers, and I totally appreciate it. To be very honest, I'm totally not there. And the solutions, absolutely. So tyranny, with tyranny, I've definitely, since it's based in government, right? It's based in like oppression and systems. To me, the best solution is us educating ourselves on how those systems work so that we can take them over. Period. You can't run.
Whiteness.
You can't run me if you can't run me. So there's that. When it comes to whiteness, I view whiteness as bullying, and I think I can't stand bullies, and the way that I this is where it's probably not great, but the way that I fight bullies is I make sure they know my power. And that might not be as productive right now as
I love it.
But I need there to be a collective understanding of Black power, our just people of color, and show these bullies that like we not with it at all. Back down. So that's where I'm at.
I thank you both. Very powerful. Y'all know me. Let's have a real truth awakening project to do this, both of these things, to end tyranny as well as whiteness. And we're pushing the 1455 project, which we look at this every month on the 4th, because the Doctrine of Discovery was signed on May 4th, whatever that year was. But over the next year leading up to the 20th anniversary, we're pulling together that project with these solutions so that we can have a tipping point. 2 billion people in the world, if we understood the same thing, we'll change. So I think, John, I hand it back over to you now, and I thank you both.
Yes. Sorry, I'm pulling this back up. So you just went through. Forgive me, I said it not. Where are we at right now? I'm so sorry.
No, let me, 11, number 11.
Okay. Yes, I'm belaboring, and we're gonna toss it to 0 with some spoken word.
How you doing there? So I always have to have some kind of introduction. I have a lot to think about in this particular case, but there's a couple of projects I'm working on, and this is one of them. It deals with tyranny in a way. That's not the name of the song, but now that I think about it, that's how it started. And it really starts from a place of, discomfort of being stuck in that hole and wanting to break away by any means necessary, so to speak. It's no surprise that humankind prefers to die than live a life of tyranny. They hide behind the obscurity, control the mind with insanity. They always try, but we shall rise above the odds. My will is strong. We have the power like an ocean force. My body's aching for a better choice. The alternative is what I must implore. So please stand up for the greater cause. No laws can bind us, our conscious flows. Outside our bodies, the eternal soul. That's the reason I can never fall. And that's the vision that will soon unfold. And to transition, I have something I wrote not too long ago that I want to share with y'all. So here it goes. What is time? Is it commodity sourced from astronomy, allowing our bodies to be exploited for vanity? Or can we create a reality where the clock doesn't determine our value? Instead, we appreciate based on reciprocal energy and nurture every moment like an infinite legacy. Blessings to y'all. I guess that's my time for now.
Awesome. Thank you.
Blessings.
We're gonna run. We're gonna, just a brief idea of like plan of action. We're gonna go to 13. Essentially to engage. Oh, I thought you were cutting me off.
No, I'm just like, yay! I'm happy.
Okay. To engage all signers and nations that benefited from the doctrine of discovery. As we know, most of these discussions are based in our understanding of the doctrine of discovery, and our awareness of its implications as well as effects on the world. So, the plan of action, the year of awareness of call of action on doctrine of discovery, September 8th, 2020 through September 8th, 2021, is, us signing this change.org petition that addresses the doctrine of discovery. So.
I have gone ahead and just put the announcements inside of the chat. So because we see those all, we are aware. So I've just pasted them because we only have about 4 more minutes. So I've done the announcement by posting them inside the chat.
Keep going. So statements of appreciation. Knowledge is on our side. I'm just gonna read this through quickly. Is that okay? Okay. Knowledge is on our side. The ability to have a free planetary virtual to end racism roundtable, online resources, Black and Indigenous. Is that right? People of color. I think it's switched. I'm sorry. People of color, folks and our allies, and when real with this civilization, societal, and political change, organization, books, data, and metric. Basically, in terms of our self-reflection, do you want me to just go ahead and read these through as well?
Yes, I mean, but with some, slowly, so they really, it makes us think.
Okay, and this is essentially for us to move forward with our own thoughts and
Yes.
just consider some other concepts. So I'll read through this for us to think about. So first one, what would your life look like personally if we all weren't negatively impacted by the racist legal framework, doctrine of discovery, past 528 years? Next, how will we each discover our full power potential in this current racist legal framework before September 8th, 2021? Next, we have, how could you contribute more to yourself, family, relationships, community, and the planet if you were free to operate without the current racist legal framework? Again, doctrine of discovery. How do we document, analyze, deconstruct every tool created that has allowed the current racist legal framework created by 528 years to bring awareness to humanity? What step must be taken to remove at each level of consciousness erase the past 528 years of the current racist legal framework? What is the one thing you can do right now to show your commitment to embodying your fullest potential outside of the racist legal framework? I love that question. And what must die, pass, leave for us to live?
Aren't they're like so cool. I love those questions.
Yeah, no, they're great.
So we're closing now. I'd like us all to just take a moment, breathe, and then see a free world and come up with a statement, a color, an image to share. Because if we don't visualize it, it won't happen. That's how I feel. So let's take some breaths in. One more. I like to start with a zero condition. Our optimistic artist.
A free world. A free world involves us being able to, when I envision a free world, I envision us people roaming free without the threat of violence and being able to, have, kids growing up with an enlightenment understanding of how we should treat each other so that as we mature, we can keep that legacy alive.
My brother JQ.
Yeah, I don't know what a free world looks like, but I do know what it feels like. And I can
Share with us.
I can give an idea. So when I think of a free world and like what that feels like, I think of sitting, and it's a little abstract, so go with me here, but I think of sitting in a field of green grass and flowers and people and light and music and just joy. That's what it feels like to me.
I love it. Thank you. Woo, that feels good. For me, it might be because I'm a Southerner. Freedom feels like being able to go anywhere and not be concerned about being Black.
Nice. Period. Yeah.
That being Black is not an issue. I've been stopped so many times in my life by the police, by everybody. And I'm an overweight, disabled woman, and they're still threatened by me. So if I can just be myself at an airport, at a coffee shop, driving, that's freedom. If I don't have to put on my European American voice when I'm stopped by the police. If I could just, hey, what's up, officer? Without, like just being, if I could be my normal self every day when I leave my house. That's freedom. Because I have to put on like a kind of okay, I'm dealing with these crazy people. So I have to put on like a whole new wardrobe kind of to just get to the grocery store or get to Africa. You have to put on I'm tired and it's weighing me down and I'm exhausted. So I thank each of you, and we really are creating a collective. I pray everybody, and I hope this is a process, but it's working. Look what today, look what last week, look every week, we're getting an understanding of each other and where we're heading. I am grateful to each one of you. Big things start small. A seed. I'm a fourth generation farmer. So one seed can live to eternity if it's nurtured, developed, water, sun, and love. So our seeds are powerful, y'all.